Back in the mid-90s, when I was first becoming aware of video games, back before I had a computer of my own and well before I or any of my friends even had that internet thing, let alone considered playing games against each other on it, hot seat multiplayer was the way to battle against your friends on the PC. And king of the hill for hot seat multiplayer was Worms. At its heart, Worms is an incredibly simple game, based on the classic game Artillery. Two teams of worms take it in turns to fire weapons at each other across a two-dimensional landscape, trying to be the last invertebrate left standing. What Worms brought to the formula that was new was an anarchic sense of humour and a wide range of wacky weapons. So, whilst you have staples like the bazooka and grenades, you also have a double-barreled shotgun, dragon punches, banana bombs, and exploding sheep. The game features a random landscape generator that can create battlefields as varied as green pleasant hills, the fires of hell, the surface of Mars, or the Windows 95 desktop. It's this variety that gives the game its long-lasting appeal. The ways in which you can blast your opponent into oblivion or shove them off a cliff into the briny deep below are just so numerous that no two games will ever be the same. The other cool thing about Worms were the team customization options. It was one thing to blow up your friend's team, but it was quite another to blow up a team of your friends. I think I must have spent just as much time thinking up new 4-worm teams and putting them into the game as I did actually playing it. Despite the simple premise, the core artillery gameplay of Worms does take some time to master. As well as aiming the bazooka and judging how much power is needed to send it on the correct trajectory to land perfectly on your opponent's head, you also need to take the shifting wind into account, which, if done correctly, can lead to some pretty fancy shooting. Grenades, whilst not affected by the wind, have the added twist of allowing the player to change the length of their timer and how much they bounce when they hit the ground. It's not uncommon to completely waste a turn on a shot that initially seems easy but ends up flying off and causing a completely unintended chain of events, frequently killing one of your own worms in the process. Which is why it's good that you have so many weapons to choose from, the game allowing for a wide variety of playstyles. If you didn't have any friends around, you could always play the game against the computer, and the version that I had, which came with the expansion pack, even added a series of challenge levels to tackle that got harder and harder. Unfortunately, the computer isn't actually that much fun to play against, because it's a little bit too good at getting those really difficult shots to land exactly where it wants them to. It's interesting to note just how prolific the Worms series has become, especially considering that it was originally created by a guy doing his A-levels, who then spent years trying to get it off the ground. Fast forward almost 20 years, and it's fair to say that if you own a device capable of playing video games, then there will be a version of Worms available for it. I own Worms on the Game Boy, for goodness sake, and it doesn't seem as though Team 17 have any plans to stop making the game for new platforms, constantly tweaking and tinkering the classic formula, adding more options, more weapons, and more Monty Python references.
Pay attention, soldier!
The holy hand grenade of Antioch!
Is Worms worth playing today? Well, for me, the original will always be my favourite, mostly because I prefer the pixely retro look to the nicely drawn sprites that was seen after Worms 2. But if you're not an old fogey, you might want to opt for something a little bit more modern, and luckily you have plenty of options to choose from, such as Worms, Worms Reinforcements, Worms plus Reinforcements United, Worms the Director's Cut, Worms 2, Worms Armageddon, Worms Pinball, Worms World Party, Worms Blast, Worms 3D, Worms Forts Under Siege, Worms 4 Mayhem, Worms Open Warfare, Worms HD, Worms Open Warfare 2, Worms A Space Odyssey, Worms Reloaded, Worms Battle Islands, Worms Ultimate Mayhem, Worms Crazy Golf, Worms Revolution, and Worms Clan Wars. So, if you have friends over and fancy a bit of silly, intense, explosive fun, why not give it a shot? You'll probably have a blast.